The lecture hall stretched across 3 vertical levels, accommodating species of wildly different sizes and atmospheric needs. Professor Vex stood at the central podium, his crystalline exoskeleton refracting the overhead lights into fractured rainbows across the tiered seating. His 4 eyes blinked independently as he addressed the assembled students of Xenobiology 401. Maya Reeves sat in the back row, her worn jacket pulled tight against the chill that permeated the station's academic sector. She'd been the only human admitted to Galactic University in its 3,000-year history, and the past 6 months had taught her exactly what that distinction meant. Isolation, mockery, endless questions about whether her species qualified as sentient. Today's lecture covered planetary habitability, and Vex seemed particularly animated. The fundamental limitation of biological development, he announced, his voice carrying through the chamber's acoustic enhancement field, remains gravitational tolerance. No known species has evolved under conditions exceeding 0.7 standard gravities. The physiological strain simply proves insurmountable. Maya's hand rose slowly. She learned to move carefully here, where sudden gestures could be misinterpreted as aggression by species with different social protocols. Vex's primary eyes swiveled toward her. Yes, the human observer has a query. The condescension in his tone wasn't subtle. Observer, not student, never student. What about Earth? Maya asked, keeping her voice level. Our homeworld registers at 1.0 standard gravities. A rippling sound moved through the assembled class. The Kelhari delegation chittered among themselves. The Voran representative's sensory tendrils curled inward, a gesture Maya had learned indicated disbelief. Professor Vex's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a patronizing smile among his kind. Miss Reeves, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but let's address this misconception directly. Your species has repeatedly provided false information regarding your plan of origin. The gravitational readings you submitted are clearly fabricated. Heat flushed through Maya's chest, but she maintained her composure. I've submitted verified data from 3 independent sources, including your own university's Deep Space Observation Network. Altered data, Vex corrected, his tone suggesting he was explaining basic arithmetic to a child. The Council has investigated these claims thoroughly. No biological organism could withstand such crushing force. Your bones would fracture under your own weight. Your cardiovascular system would collapse. Your internal organs would fail within hours of development. Maya leaned forward in her seat. Then explain how I'm sitting here right now. Vex's laugh resonated with harmonic overtones that made the air vibrate. Because, Miss Reeves, you clearly evolved on a low-gravity world and have spent your developmental years in reduced gravity environments. Your physiology demonstrates this truth. You're fragile compared to species from even moderate gravity wells. Your skeletal structure appears almost delicate. Your musculature lacks the density we observe in organisms from worlds exceeding 0.5 gravities. Several students turned to look at Maya, their various sensory organs examining her with newfound interest. She felt like a specimen under analysis, which wasn't far from her daily reality. I grew up on Earth, Maya said quietly, but her words carried. 22 years at 1 standard gravity. Impossible, Vex declared. He gestured toward a holographic display that materialized above the podium. Anatomical diagrams of various species rotated slowly, their bone density and muscle composition highlighted in contrasting colors. Observe the Kelhari, evolved at 0.6 gravities. Note the reinforced skeletal structure, the enhanced muscular development. Now observe a human sample. Maya's own anatomical scan appeared in the display. She recognized it from her mandatory medical examination upon arrival at the station. Hollow bones, Vex continued, highlighting her skeletal system. Minimal muscle density. A cardiovascular system designed for minimal resistance. This is a creature built for 0.3 gravities at most. Probably evolved on a moon or small planetoid. Your species has constructed an elaborate mythology around a fictional high-gravity homeworld, perhaps to seem more formidable to potential trade partners or adversaries. The lecture hall filled with sounds of agreement. The Kelhari delegation chittered louder. A Vorn student actually applauded with its primary manipulator appendages. Maya stood slowly. Every eye in the chamber tracked her movement. "I request permission to present evidence," she said formally, invoking the academic protocol for challenging a lecture's premise. Vex crystals dimmed slightly, a sign of irritation. "Miss Reeves, this is a debate forum. This is an advanced course in xenobiology, and I will not waste class time on pseudoscientific arguments defending your species' collective delusion. The university charter guarantees students the right to present contradicting evidence during lectures," Maya pressed. Article 7, Section 4, Subsection B. A murmur rippled through the class. Vex's exoskeleton actually crackled with frustrated energy. "Very well. You have 3 minutes. Try not to embarrass yourself further." Maya descended the tiered seating, her boots making soft sounds against the polished flooring. She reached the podium and interfaced her personal data pad with the display system. Her hands were steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. "Gravity affects development," she began, her voice amplified through the chamber. "Higher gravity creates stronger organisms through evolutionary pressure. Lower gravity produces the opposite effect. Professor Vex is correct about this fundamental principle." Vex's mandibles twitched with satisfaction. "However," Maya continued, pulling up new data streams, "the professor's assumption contains a fatal flaw. He's examined human physiology through the lens of species adapted to their environments over millions of years. He hasn't considered what happens when a species becomes strong enough to modify its own limitations." She displayed Earth's actual gravity readings, cross-referenced with data from 17 independent sources across the galactic community. The numbers blazed in the air, undeniable and verified. "Earth does operate at 1 standard gravity," Maya stated. "Humans evolved under these conditions, but we didn't just adapt to survive them." She pulled up comparative analysis charts showing human performance metrics against other species: running speeds, lifting capacity, endurance trials, recovery rates. "We thrived," Maya said softly. "We became pursuit predators. We developed the ability to run for hours without stopping, chasing prey until they collapsed from exhaustion. We learned to throw objects with lethal accuracy at speeds other species can barely track. We evolved sweat glands for thermal regulation that let us operate in temperature ranges that would kill most of the species in this room." The lecture hall had gone silent. Even Vex watched the data scroll past without interruption. "You call my bones hollow, Professor. They're not hollow. They're dense enough to withstand impacts that would shatter most species' skeletons. You call my muscles minimal. They're compact, yes, but they contain fast-twitch fibers that provide explosive power other species achieve only through cybernetic enhancement. My cardiovascular system isn't designed for minimal resistance. It's designed to deliver oxygenated blood to a brain that consumes 20% of my body's total energy, even at rest." Maya tapped another command, and video footage appeared. Humans running, climbing, lifting, fighting. The images showed feats of strength and endurance that made several students shift uncomfortably in their seats. "You wondered how I'm not crushed by Earth's gravity," Maya said, meeting Vex's crystalline gaze directly. "The answer is simple. I was forged by it." She paused, letting the weight of that statement settle over the assembled class. Every species in this room evolved to fit their world. Humans evolved to conquer ours. We walked upright on a planet, trying to pull us down with every step. We built cities that reached into the sky despite gravity's constant drag. We developed technology to escape our gravity well entirely. We didn't just survive 1 standard gravity, Professor. We mastered it." The display shifted again, showing Earth itself. The blue and green sphere rotated slowly, beautiful and terrible in its implications. "So when you ask how I'm not crushed," Maya finished, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber, "the real question is this. If humans can walk freely in conditions that would kill most known species, what happens when we operate in your low-gravity environments?" She tapped the final command on her datapad. The lights in the lecture hall dimmed. Emergency protocols activated. Red warning indicators flashed across every exit. Maya's expression remained calm as she spoke her next words. I've just sealed this chamber and disabled the artificial gravity generators for this entire section. In approximately 30 seconds, everyone in this room except me is about to learn what zero gravity feels like. And then you're going to discover exactly how fast a human can move when we're not being held down by the force we evolved to overcome. Professor Vex lunged toward the emergency override panel, his movements suddenly frantic. He never reached it. Maya crossed the distance between them in a single bound that would have been impossible under normal circumstances. Under zero gravity, she moved like a predator unleashed. The screaming started 3 seconds later. 17 hours earlier, Maya had sat in the university's administrative office. Her academic transcript displayed on the wall screen behind Dean Kellis. The dean's segmented body coiled in what Maya had learned to recognize as discomfort among the Serpentine species. "Your grades remain acceptable," Kellis said carefully, his forked tongue tasting the air between them. "However, the faculty council has voted unanimously to recommend your withdrawal from the doctoral program." Maya's jaw tightened. "On what grounds?" "Cultural incompatibility," Kellis replied smoothly. "Your presence creates disruption. Students complain about unfair advantages in zero-gravity laboratory work. Professors report difficulty maintaining classroom authority when you question fundamental principles. The university has determined that humanity simply isn't ready for advanced academic integration." The words landed like physical blows. 3 years of preparation, 6 months of enduring daily humiliation, all of it for nothing. "I've outperformed 70% of my cohort," Maya said, her voice low and controlled. "My research on cross-species genetic markers has been cited in 4 major publications. I've contributed more to this institution's reputation than most students will achieve in their entire academic careers." Kellis's crest flattened against his skull. "That's precisely the problem. You're making other species look inferior. It generates resentment. The Council prefers to maintain harmonious relations among established galactic civilizations rather than accommodate a newcomer species with delusions of grandeur." Maya stood slowly, her movements deliberate. "Delusions of grandeur. Is that what you call provable facts now?" "I call it hubris," Kellis replied coldly. "Your species has been in the galactic community for less than a decade. You've contributed nothing of value to interstellar society. Your technology remains primitive. Your cultural development lacks sophistication. Yet you persist in these absurd claims about your homeworld's gravity, as if suffering through harsher conditions somehow makes you superior to civilizations that have thrived for millennia." Maya's hands clenched at her sides. "We survived conditions that would have crushed your ancestors before they developed sentience. That's not hubris. That's evolution. And that attitude," Kellis said, his voice dripping with disdain, "is exactly why you're being expelled. Clean out your quarters by week's end. Your passage back to human space will be arranged at the university's expense. Consider it charity." Maya had left that office with rage burning cold in her chest. Not the hot, explosive anger that demanded immediate action. The calculating, patient fury that built plans and executed them flawlessly. She'd spent the next 16 hours preparing. Now, as chaos erupted in the lecture hall, Maya watched Professor Vex flail in zero gravity, like a creature drowning in air. His crystalline exoskeleton, so imposing under normal circumstances, became a liability. He couldn't orient himself, couldn't find purchase against the smooth walls and ceiling. The Calvary students had it worse. Their low-gravity evolution left them completely unprepared. They tumbled and collided with each other, their chittering transformed from mockery into panic. Maya moved through the chaos like a shark through deep water. Her hand caught the edge of a seat. She pushed off, controlling her trajectory with practiced ease. Years of training in Earth's gravity gave her an instinctive understanding of momentum and force that these species had never needed to develop. She reached the main display controls and activated the recording system. Every camera in the lecture hall went live, streaming directly to the university's central network and beyond. "Attention, Galactic University," Maya announced, her voice calm despite the pandemonium around her. "This is Maya Reeves, the human you spent 6 months trying to break. I'm about to teach you the most important lesson in xenobiology that this institution has ever witnessed. She pulled up Professor Vex's own data on gravitational limitations, displaying it prominently for all the streaming cameras to record. You claim no species can survive one standard gravity. You've built your entire understanding of biological development on this principle. You've mocked my people, dismissed our achievements, called us liars and primitives. You've done this because accepting the truth would force you to acknowledge something terrifying. Maya pushed off again, gliding toward where Vex struggled to right himself. She grabbed his primary manipulator appendage, stopping his tumbling with effortless control. Humans aren't weaker than you, Maya said, making sure every camera captured the moment. We're stronger, faster, more resilient. Evolution, on a high-gravity world, didn't crush us. It forged us into something your civilizations can't match through millions of years of comfort and ease. She released Vex, sending him spinning gently toward the far wall. But here's what really terrifies you, Maya continued, addressing the cameras directly. Humans have only been in space for 50 years. We've had starship capability for less than a decade. Despite that, we're already competing with civilizations that have explored the galaxy for millennia. Imagine what we'll achieve in 100 years, 1,000, 10,000. The implications hung in the air like a physical presence. Maya activated the gravity generators. The transition was gradual, giving the panicked students time to settle to the floor without injury. She'd never intended to hurt anyone, just to prove a point that couldn't be dismissed or explained away. As one standard gravity returned, Maya remained standing while most of the class struggled to regain their composure. The Kellery delegation looked genuinely shaken. Vex's crystalline structure had developed several small fractures from impacts during his uncontrolled tumbling. Dean Kellis appeared on the main display screen, his segmented body rigid with fury. Miss Reeves, you have committed an act of criminal endangerment. Security forces are en route to your location. You'll be detained, prosecuted, and expelled from not just this university, but from all civilized space. Maya smiled, and there was no warmth in the expression. Detained? I'm about to walk out of this building. Dean, security can try to stop me, but they won't succeed, because they're adapted to 0.4 gravity environments, and I'm a creature built for one standard gravity. In a physical confrontation, there is no contest. She turned back to cameras. I'm transmitting this recording to every news network in the galactic community. I'm including all of Professor Vex's data on gravitational limitations, alongside verified measurements of Earth's actual gravity. I'm adding performance comparisons between humans and every other major species in athletics, endurance, and strength competitions. The evidence is overwhelming, undeniable, and available for independent verification. Maya walked toward the lecture hall's main exit, her movements confident and unhurried. The galactic community has a choice, she announced. Accept that humans evolved under conditions you consider impossible, which means we possess capabilities you can't match. Or continue denying the evidence and watch as we prove our superiority in every field we enter: science, engineering, athletics, military capability, commerce, the arts, everything. The exit doors opened as she approached. For security, officers stood in the corridor beyond, their weapons drawn. They were Vorns, a species known for their size and strength in low-gravity conflicts. Maya stopped at the threshold and looked at them calmly. I'm leaving, she said simply. Move aside or be moved. The largest Vorn stepped forward, its sensory tendrils extended in a threat display. It outweighed Maya by at least 200 pounds. Its reach was substantially longer. In any reasonable assessment, it had every physical advantage. Maya ducked under its grasping appendage, stepped inside its guard, and delivered a strike to its central nerve cluster that sent the creature crashing to the floor. The entire exchange took less than 2 seconds. The remaining 3 officers backed away, their weapons lowering. Maya walked past them without another glance. Behind her, the lecture hall remained silent except for the quiet sounds of students helping each other back to their seats. The cameras continued recording. The data continued streaming across the galactic network. Professor Vex finally found his voice. This changes nothing. You're still just one human, an anomaly, An outlier. Maya paused at the corridor junction and looked back at him. Professor, there are 14 billion humans on Earth right now. We've colonized 8 other worlds in our home system. We're building colony ships for deep space exploration. And every single one of us evolved to thrive in conditions you claim are impossible. She let that sink in for a moment. I'm not an anomaly. I'm the standard. And we're coming to the stars whether you're ready for us or not. Maya turned and walked away, her footsteps echoing down the empty corridor. 6 months later, the Galactic Council issued new guidelines for gravitational environment classifications. Earth's measurement was officially recognized. Xenobiology textbooks were revised. Professor Vex resigned under pressure, his career destroyed by the viral recording of his humiliation. Maya never returned to Galactic University. She didn't need to. 300 institutions across known space offered her positions. She accepted a professorship at the Terran Institute of Xenobiology, where she trained the next generation of human scientists to bring uncomfortable truths to a galaxy that had gotten far too comfortable with its own assumptions. The universe had underestimated humanity because it seemed impossible that anything could thrive under such brutal conditions. They were learning better now, and the lessons were just beginning. Subscribe and like to my channel for more HFY sci-fi stories.